For a realtor, when you're pricing properties, you can give an initial value, but then you put it on and then the market actually determines what it is.
You're talking about the free market doing its thing. If somebody's willing to pay more, then that's what it's worth.
No, it's not what it's worth. It's what you paid. Those are different.
No, that's a stupid argument, Darryl. That's crazy.
It doesn't matter what they paid for them. They're not worth that.
Something is only worth what somebody is willing to pay for it.
The highest price is willing to pay. Because if you have 17 offers, which one is right? Which one is the price? The one that you accepted. But that's not the value of the thing.
Welcome to the Tom Storey Show with Steve Karrasch and Tom Storey, where we discuss everything real estate or whatever else is on our minds.
What? It was you.
It wasn't me. I threw off the whole bloody thing. What else is new?
Well,
my position okay?
Your position great, Daryl. You're looking tanned and ready. Okay, welcome back to the Tom Storey Show. This is episode 196. Hopefully everybody is now settled into 2026 and your year is off to an amazing start. This episode is off to an amazing start because this week's guest is none other than Darryl Frankfort. Darryl is a friend of the show, even though he's probably also the name that we've made fun of the most when he's not here. But you only make fun of your friends. Darryl owns DealCore Properties. He's a developer here in the city of Toronto. Also happens to co-host the Canadian Real Estate Show. If you've ever heard of that, probably not. But Darryl, welcome back. Also, CEO, president, I don't know what you call it, inventor of shrubs.me. So we'll get to that later in the episode. But always fun to chat with Darryl. You're looking good. You're looking tanned. How are we feeling so far in 2026?
So far, 2026 looks pretty promising. I feel good. I'm not the norm, that's for sure. I live in a little bubble in the luxury market, which, you know, honestly, it is one of my biggest issues right now that I deal with. And just one of the biggest issues probably most people deal with is when people talk about the market and the market is this and the market is that, while you're trying to do something that may not be the same as the rest of the market, right? Mm-hmm. So I, for example, have one of the best products that's really possible in this market. It's like AAA plus location. It's being done properly, and it gets lumped in with the market in a lot of discussions, which is super annoying because if you do any digging into any market, like Steve, your market, hey, does your market work the same as Toronto?
Doesn't seem like it at the moment.
No. And it never has. And there might be similarities, right? Like there's houses and realtors and brokers and all this shit, but they're not the same. And even Tom, like if you take condos in downtown Toronto versus condos in Newmarket, like is that the same market?
No, the micro markets are the only thing that actually matters, but it's not as good of a news headline to run with like, oh, actually a semi-detached house in Leslieville got 10 offers last week, where it's all its own different thing.
Right. But people read these things. So you'll see, like multiple offers and something in Whitby, and there's no story behind it. There's just a headline. And when you dig in, it's like, oh, well, of course there's multiple offers. They listed it for half price.
Right.
Right. Or whatever the story is. It's just there's so much, I don't know why they're painting it with such a broad stroke, because there's definitely segments of the market that are absolutely decimated and there's no end in sight for them. Okay. There's no doubt about that. I would not want to have a property in downtown Toronto near a subway that was, the idea was 60, 70, 50 story building, with a bunch of tiny little units. I would have thought I was a genius a couple of years ago, but now I'm trying to figure out what the hell I'm going to do and what I'm going to tell everybody, right?
What are those? I think there was one, the condo that was going to be built at Fillmore's, that location, Darryl?
I've heard of it. I'm not sure how.
But it was, I just saw that they're switching it to purpose-built rentals. Like they're not canceling the whole thing, but they were trying to sell a condo, obviously couldn't. And now it's purpose-built rentals. But I think that was Menke's. I think so. But like they have the luxury of that's a company that can make that switch and do it. Not everyone's in that position.
most people are probably not in that position, but a lot of people are trying to do that. And it's definitely a shorter term solution that allows some projects to kind of keep going for a while and see what happens. But most deals that you bought to zone a certain way was based on math for that certain way. And the math for, you know, a high-rise condo with a bunch of micro units to investors is very different math than like a boutique luxury building or, you know, like a really cheap rental building. Like everything is purchased for a specific reason. You have an idea in mind, right? And the numbers work for that. And a lot of things, they don't translate into other schemes easily and profitably.
Well, if you look like right now, and I'm not talking about the type of product that you're going to be building, and we'll get more into that, but you know, any downtown project that tried to launch, like I'm talking like real downtown Toronto, still in the last 2 years, they tried to launch over 1,300 a square foot. Many of them still 1,500 when you find these price sheets. I don't know how many that they're actually selling. I just listed a condo this morning for $850 a square foot in a 10-year-old building right beside the Rogers Center. And it's not a shitty condo. It's a nice 2-bedroom, 2-bath with parking. How is anyone ever going to go back to buying that pre-con stuff? It's almost double the price right now.
Well, you say go back to, but the reality is that no one did. Like, it was investors. It was not even really investors. It was like these crazy gamblers that had access to funds from somewhere for some reason, that for some reason, like, looked past all the fundamentals of investing in real estate, right? They were simply appreciation investors, which I don't even think is really a thing, right? So they were a necessary evil in the process, don't get me wrong, but like, we can't call them investors, but like the whole thing is just so messed up because of that dynamic. I mean, I could get into a rant all day about that. We don't want to go there. The thing is the math from those days doesn't work anymore. Right. And so to switch gears, it's like, okay, so I have a 60-story building zoned at Bayview and Eglinton right now. Like, now what? Like, who's going to move into this thing? Because you said go back to, but the real people that are buying, they never bought that shit. They bought
you're right.
Some other guy who was the stopgap in the middle, right? And they bought it because it was the only bloody thing that was anywhere close to their price range, with the idea that in 2 years, I'm going to flip this thing for more money. I'm going to climb up the ladder. Right.
So what happens now, though, like when you're chatting with other people, you know, in your side of the industry, building these big boys, what are they doing? Because the easy answer is, like, from the comments is going to be like, well, Tom, reduce their price and they'll sell the thing. Most of them maybe aren't in a position that they can afford to do that based on the cost of building this. Like, what do these big ones do? Do they just sit and wait? And like, they're going to wait 5 years. How is this going to change anytime soon? That's what I'm saying. They either wait, they go bankrupt, they get out of business. The big ones will be able to switch to building purpose-built rentals to keep the lights on and keep people employed. But this is going to be like, what do? They bought this land probably at crazy prices as well as everything else was going up.
I mean, the bigger the boy, the longer they can just kind of park that thing and wait till something makes sense on it. Those big guys, we don't have to worry about. It's all the other guys. It's those younger guys that were smooth talking and could raise money, and fundamentals didn't even have to matter. You could just make a pro forma, put it out there, raise a bunch of money, and you had 7 deals and you still never built a thing in your whole life. It's those kind of guys, I think, that we have to worry about. Or the newer guys that stepped up from custom homes just recently and got caught in a shitstorm, right? The guys that don't have the ability to hang on or convince their long-term investors to hang on another few years until we figure it out, you know? There's a lot of people that have been saying that already for years, like, just wait, well, I'll figure it out. We're going to turn it into a purpose-built rental. And they've been trying to figure that out for years. I mean, anything that could have been converted to a purpose-built rental already has, right? Because I mean, what the fuck have you been doing for the last couple of years if you haven't been doing that, for God's sakes, right? So we see a lot of new purpose-built rental in the pipeline, right?
I mean, that's it. That is the pipeline. There's no other pipeline.
Well, but I mean, that's what currently pencils kind of with all of the subsidies right now.
But is it gonna, Darryl? Because my thought is
rents are going down.
I saw a report yesterday that this year in Canada, there's 2.1 million temporary work permits that are not going to be renewed. Yeah. 2.1 million people leave this country. Most of them are in Toronto or in Greater Vancouver. And now all of these places have switched to purpose-built rental. Almost everything has switched to purpose-built rental. Just looking through rental advertisements myself lately for things like, my basement suite, I'm now competing with, what are you going to call them, corporate landlords? So I don't even think those are really going to pencil if by the time they're built, you actually look at what the real rents are going to be, because they're budgeting at these, 2-bedroom condos, renting at $2,800, and they're going to rent at $2,300 if you're lucky. It's a big change. Do you think that's going to be the next? Are we going to have like a purpose-built rental calamity coming down the road next?
I think we're going to see a lot of projects that are counted in these numbers as, applications and coming down the pipe stall out and not end up happening. I don't know what ends up happening with the land, but I think the units never come on the market. There's a huge amount of them that will fall into that category because it doesn't pencil. And rents have been coming down for over a year, like month over month for 14 months or something like that. Rents have been going down. And on top of the fact that the rents are going down, you have a flood of new inventory that was supposed to be rental stock, like condos by investors, right? That are like, there's tons of them out there. There's more and more coming, and then there's more and more coming. And then once all that stuff gets absorbed, then the purpose-built rentals, like I can't see a scenario where too much actually gets built if it hasn't started already. And the stuff that started already, they're going to need some more equity to bridge the gap between where they were supposed to be with the rents when they got the loan from CMHC and where they actually ended up with the rents when they start renting this stuff, right? Because even if they're in construction now, they could be 2, 3, 4 years away from starting occupancies, right? Which might be a good time. Right? A lot of people I know are betting on, 3 years from now, man, is there going to be a need for housing, right? I'm not saying I agree with them. I'm just saying with the amount of actual things that start in the last little while, plus in the next little while, there probably will be a gully of inventory on the market if we could possibly absorb all this other shit.
So what is it, Darryl, then that I've wanted to ask you this for a while. What is it that you found in the deal that you did, that you're doing on the construction side, Thelma? What is it that you found that the other one, are we allowed to call it that still? What is it that you found that nobody else could see? Because I'm assuming you weren't the only person that was that site was shopped to.
No, this thing was on the market for a long, long time, actually. And I bought it from another developer, Chinese group, who couldn't figure out what the hell to do with it. What did I see? I knew that the planning in the area was about to change very drastically, and I based my assumptions on things that I knew for fact that just hadn't been put into law yet. I also am very creative, and I figured out an issue with, I don't know if you're familiar with what rental replacement is, but the site had 11 rental replacement units attached to it, which was a real big pain in the ass. If you can imagine, it's about 10,000 square feet.
Yeah. Can you break that down a little bit? So if you're talking rental replacement, so there was already 11 rentals there, and then you had to replace those with 11 more rentals? How does that work?
So this is what's pretty insane. Okay, so normally if you have a property that has 6 or more rental units in it, you have to replace those units with like size units, like bedrooms. So you're replacing a 3-bedroom with a 3-bedroom. If it was 1,000 square feet, they want 1,000 square feet. And normally you have tenants, right? So you have to like displace them and give them the opportunity to come back at a certain rent that's like lower than market rents. It's a real thing. So normally you see rental replacement when there's a tower with a few hundred units so that you can absorb all of this nonsense, right? Because it costs money to get people out, to bring them back, to give them a discount, right? So a lot of sites don't actually happen because of rental replacement. Now, this site in particular has not had occupants for 20 years. The houses are dilapidated. 2 of them were condemned and removed because they were dangerous. The rest of them I have not gone into since the day I closed on them because they are frightening and dangerous as hell. Humans should not be in there. But the city won't let you tear them down because you have to replace the units because 20 years ago, the last thing that they were used for.
What?
Right. But you want to hear even crazier?
You didn't get into real estate to become a web developer, but a great website is a must. And sellers, well, they want their listings to shine. RealtyNinja.com builds affordable, beautiful, mobile-friendly real estate websites with lead capture and SEO. And there is no tech skills required. Realty Ninja will migrate your content, handle domain changes, and set up as free during your unlimited trial with no credit card required. I've been using Realty Ninja since 2012. Try Realty Ninja right now for free and sign up using our link, realtyninja.com/Tom, and you will save 20% off your entire first year when you launch.
Down the street, you mentioned Menkes before. And this has nothing to do with the fact that they're Menkes, I don't think. But Menkes bought a building not too far from where I am. And they had 10 people actually living in the building. And they displaced those people, which they were allowed to do. They didn't have to replace those 10 units for rental because they were considered luxury rentals. And if you're in a certain price bracket for luxury rental, you don't have to replace them. So on my site, and we made the case, we're like, we could just fix these up and put them on the market as rentals and rent them out as luxury, reset this thing and get rid of the rental replacement. Or you guys could like use your noodles a little bit and just like alleviate the pressure. So anyways, before we closed on the property, I orchestrated a deal with the city to let me move those off to another site and unlock the revenue in Forest Hill and take them to another property where I could absorb them better, because they were not going to let me out of that requirement. Okay, so this was the big hair on the dog, as some people like to say, maybe 40 years ago. This was the issue with the deal, is that they had this rental replacement component of 10,000 square feet in Forest Hill on a site that everybody else thought was townhouses, right? And so you could fit 7 or 8 townhouses on this property. And if you have to replace 11 rental units, the math never made any sense to anybody. But when I saw this thing, I was actually doing a podcast with TK, and he said, hey, I got this deal I want to tell you about. It's this, blah, blah, blah. And I pressed the pause button and I said, TK, we got to make an offer right now, like full asking price. This is the best deal I've ever seen in my life. And he's like, what? Are you kidding me? If you go back, there's an episode that had no ending because I just chopped it short, right? And that was because I was like, oh my God, I did the quick math in my head and I was like, this is...
What year was this, Darryl? When did you decide this and buy this lot?
2023.
Do you feel the same way today as you felt then as the best deal?
I didn't even know what I know now, okay? And that's why what I started off with at the beginning of the discussion is this high-end boutique luxury market is so different than anything else I have ever done in my lifetime. It's so different than every other real estate market. When I first started building houses, I built some pretty high-end like McMansions in the bridle path, okay? Those were nothing compared to what we're talking about building here at One Thelma. This is like the top of the top. It's going to be it's such an unbelievable experience that we have in store for people. And it's so close to like such a wonderful amenity in that village that like, we're so excited. We have so many people that are like, we're not even launching. We don't have anything to launch. We barely have any materials to show any people. And we've got a list of people. We have had like multiple meetings with some people. The interest for this unique product, I got lucky as part of it too, right? So like I recognize that, you know, we started off, I think we were doing 60 something units in the pro forma. Then it turned out into 47 down to 36. And now we're at 16 because you can clearly see that the demand for this is bigger units. And you can clearly see in the data that bigger units actually command more money per square foot. Everything in this bracket is the opposite of the other markets, okay? Small is so bad. Everybody that builds small is left with shitty units at the end that they don't know what to do with, okay? And everybody, I don't know, we just got super lucky, but we definitely recognize some planning stuff at the very beginning. That's the key. That's the key to development in a nutshell, is just knowing that planning before it comes into place and being ready for it. And I mean, ideally owning properties within the areas, that's always a great thing. But it can also work against you. So you got to kind of tie in all the macroeconomics, right? Because I could have very easily been stuck with a 60-story great tower site at Yonge and Eglinton right now and been like, now I got to go bankrupt. Crap, right?
And the ideal buyer.
How far did you? Hang on.
This is the wrong show for that, guys.
Hang on. I'm still so there. I'm slow, Darryl. I gotta comprehend this. So there used to be rental units on there. They didn't have rental units on them currently because nobody had lived in them because the houses were no good. How far did you have to move the rental units, and did you have to be involved in that other project of moving the rental units, or was it like, could you slough it off somehow in another deal to another developer?
Well, I mean, there's nobody that really wants to take on that responsibility because they're below market, right? So depending on where you place them, they could be closer to market or further from market. The problem is absorbing them and still being profitable because they're, depending on the size of the deal, they're pretty chunky. So you can pay somebody to take on that responsibility. That is out there as a potential option. But again, it's not cheap, okay? Not cheap at all. It's a huge cost. I do have it currently approved to go on to my other property in the Bridle Path, which is a purpose-built rental, also very high-end, big units, but they're not helping the pro forma, that's for sure. Now, because of the product mix and the purchase and my brilliant planning, it can absorb it and still show a healthy profit. But like anything, I mean, there's no purpose-built rentals in the Bridle Path, right? So I'm a pioneer, let's say, building something like that product in that area.
Are you getting pushback on building rentals in the Bridle Path? I would assume maybe some of the homeowners are like, we don't want rentals in the Bridle Path.
Well, I mean, hopefully nobody that watches this lives in the Bridle Path, but I mean, I bought the site. Again, I knew the planning.
You never know. Drake could be watching.
Well, but all the new like Main Street planning stuff that came in with the 6-story.
Yeah.
Well, so this property just happens to be in that zone. And it also happened to be in a zone that was being added to the avenue list and even more height than that 6-story thing. So as of right, the neighbors have zero say in having a much higher building than they're used to.
Got it.
They have zero control whether it's a rental building or a condo building. They really just have to decide how much they want to bang their heads against the wall or embrace what's happening. Now, it's funny because when you say nobody's ever done it before in an area like that, you know, you'd think most people think you're crazy, but when you talk to people that are downsizing, that have a lot of wealth, actually, that are kind of not into having it disappear in the home that they own, they do like renting. And if you look at other cities across the globe, there are definitely a lot of examples where people pay unbelievable amounts of rent for beautiful places. And so I figured it would be a great idea to do that here, considering nobody can afford to own anything anymore. And there's way better ways to use your money in some cases for some people.
You know what I found interesting is, Darryl, because of the age of my kids now, I go to either myself or my wife go to birthday parties every weekend. That's where I am at the age. And so you talk to all these other parents. Yeah. Honestly, the little play places are pretty cool these days. But you talk to all the other parents, and there's one specific project that is potentially happening, maybe close to where I live, but I don't want to give that away on here. And you talk to the other parents that are actively protesting it, and for many different reasons. But what I found is the number one thing is, and I've had this like directly said to me at a birthday party, and I'm not saying that they're wrong or right or anything, but they're like, you know what, I know people need somewhere to live, but like it shouldn't be here, and it's going to mess up the parking on our street. And I'm like, yeah, like, and they have no idea what I do for a living. Like, I actively don't try to like tell my kids' friends' parents what I do. Like, some of them have figured it out because of the YouTube stuff. And I'm like, oh yeah, okay, interesting. Like, just kind of stay quiet about it. Parking seems to be the number one thing that it's just going to screw up the parking on our street, which Steve complains about all the time as well.
Yeah, I mean, and imagine they just removed all the parking requirements, right?
Yeah.
So you build a building with no parking. I mean, it was bad enough before. It's funny, on my projects, I'm fighting to get more parking because they made it maximums, right?
Well, you kind of need 2 parking spots for every unit at what you're building, no? Right? Yeah.
No, they all come with 2. I think the penthouses will come with 3 or 4. We haven't decided that yet. But we have an abundance of parking. I mean, it costs a goddamn ton of money to build another level of underground, right? But those are the deals that are actually penciling now, is the ones that don't have the underground, don't have the garbage, right? And so now you got cars all over the street. Every week you got so much garbage coming out of it's all going to look like Chinatown, right? It's all going to look like Kensington Market, with just garbage everywhere on all of these main streets. And I know they're trying to figure that out in the background right now, but like, you can't have the right garbage and have a profitable site on these little sites that they're trying to have everybody intensify, right? So they allow you to come up with different garbage schemes, but it's like, if you have a 60-unit building on a main street that has no garbage room, where's that garbage going, right? Imagine that. And then it's like people found a method to actually get them to pencil. So you have areas that will have a few of these pop up all of a sudden in the next couple of years, right? It's so crazy, and it's these planning rules and regulations that force people to do stupid stuff like this, right? It's like, give me a box and let me build the best product I can within this box that's going to make me the most money because people want to live here, right?
Right.
Don't tell me what to make this thing and make me have all these costs. I can't be affordable. I can't make it look good because then it costs me $1 billion. And I have to, if I have another idea, I've got to run it by you for a year and pay all these people. Like, I could cross it out with a eraser and just build it, for God's sakes, because it's in the box. You know what I mean? Have an inspector come, make sure I do it properly to code. That's cool. But how do you tell everybody that I got to keep the front facade of my building that costs $5 million to prop up on King Street? You know, it's like,
so stupid.
What is going on here? Why do you dictate how big my front yard should be, for God's sakes? Like, if I want to have a roundabout, let me have a roundabout. If I want to leave garbage on the street because I think that's a selling feature, that's on me, right? If I want to make a room for it because I think that's the best way to get like a good client base.
Like, how much is a garbage room? What am I missing here? So, like, how expensive is it
it's
to
like
have
the turnaround and everything for the garbage truck to come in, Tom.
That's part of it. That's part of it. It's the space for the garbage. If you're not doing underground.
But what are we talking about? What is that? How much is that cost that they're considering removing that? So it's going to be like New York and bags are just going to be on the street outside these nice buildings.
This episode of the Tom Storey Show is brought to you by Carson Dunlop. Real estate agents, you spend months, if not years, earning your clients' trust. You don't want to lose it on inspection day. For over 45 years, top agents across Canada have relied on Carson Dunlop for home inspections that are clear, calm, and client first. Their inspections don't just find issues, they know how to explain them in a way that will protect your client and your credibility. If you haven't worked with Carson Dunlop yet, now is the time to find out why Canada's best trust Carson Dunlop for home inspections. You can learn more at carsondunlop.com. I will also tell you, in the Toronto real estate market, whenever I see a pre-home inspection by Carson Dunlop, I know my buyers can trust it. And Carson Dunlop is a company we've used so many times over the years for our buyers and sellers. carsondunlop.com. And now back to the podcast.
Well, okay, so you eliminate the underground parking, for example. That eliminates millions of dollars right there, okay? Then that garbage has to go somewhere. So now you lose a suite, if not multiple suites by doing that, plus all the costs associated with that. And that's just like off the top of the head. Imagine losing 2 suites into infinity on a 12-unit building. Right? Or a 10-unit building or a 6-unit building, you still need this stuff, right? So it's like, and what they're pushing density on is like these little sites, right? So you end up with a bunch of new 12s with a bunch of garbage outside and no parking and more cars on the street. And then, is that something that neighbors should fight over? Should they even have a say in that kind of thing? I don't even think that they should, to be honest with you. Like, if that's in the rules, then everybody should just shut the hell up and let the rules play out. The problem is the rules are all gray. They're not rules. They're like a bunch of opinions. And then they get enforced by people's opinions after that, right? It goes to a tribunal where, Sally just got in a fight with Fred and they're all pissed off. So they want me to take the brunt of it. And they're not going to give me the extra parking spot I asked for some stupid, bloody reason that makes sense to God knows who. Right? This is what we deal with every day. It's literal insanity.
Okay.
Meanwhile,
go on. No, you're on a roll. Keep going.
Well, because of my social presence, I get people from the city that, feel like they need to help make a change. Right? And then they kind of start talking to me and we get into things and, they want little change. And I'm like, why? Why little change, guys? We need to get some big changes going on here. Little change adds up to the right changes at the wrong time, right? So now we have things like all this extra density in all these places, and nobody can make it pencil, right? All this extra density, you know what it did? It gave guys the ability to go back in, refinance under a higher density at a higher value, push the can down the road and go, uh-oh, it doesn't work at this level either. Shit. I'm not kidding, right?
Interesting.
Right? And then all kinds of stuff traded based on more density. You can get 60 stories here. Okay, great. But I don't want 60 stories there. I like the look. I have guys that call me that are like, what do I do? Like, how do I make this thing luxury? How do I do like you're doing? And I'm like, you can't. Nobody wants to live on the 60th floor in luxury. That's not real. That's like New York propaganda for like Billionaire Row. Empty apartments, money laundering schemes, and all this kind of nonsense.
Is it not kind of, maybe funny is the wrong word, but like we built so many of these small units, which I get per square foot are not cheap, right? They're still expensive per square foot, but the actual cost is lower than most of what else is on the market. And now nobody wants it. So we've just decided we don't want it, or at least we don't want it at the price that it's currently at. And then we've got Darryl on here, a developer who's building a both high-end rentals and high-end purchasable units. And other people that are asking him, hey, how do I do what you're doing? Like, we're going through, whether you want to call it, it's just a different type of housing crisis now. It's just a different version of it. And the answer is, the only thing that works is building units that are going to sell for over $2 million each. That's a little funny, right? Like, what we've got to.
We've got to a point where it's like everything else in this K-shape economy. You have the extreme high end works, and you have the extreme low end works with all this CMHC shenanigans and schemes, right? So like the super low crappy stuff pencils, the high stuff pencils, and everything else in the middle that, you know, the normal people want to live in, they can't afford.
I mean, does that not just sum up Canada?
It sums up, I think, the world problem right now. It's not just a Canadian thing. It's very bad in Canada, mainly because all of us derive our money from this bloody market, right? One way or another, it's like almost everybody you know somehow, some way is touched by the real estate market, right? And it became such a gigantic industry. It became the industry in the country, right? So clearly when that thing shifts gears, this thing didn't even shift gears. Like we dropped the engine a few miles back, right? And we're just moving the gear shift right now, going through the motions. But would we go from 127,000 sales to 62? What the hell? That you feel that, right? You feel
but
that.
The 127 was fake too. The 127 was stupid.
But Steve, but 90 is kind of where we probably should be. 85 to 90,000 is like where we should be for our population. We're way under that. And we were way over that for that 1 year.
Well, so hold on a sec. Did we ever have a shortage? Where is the shortage? Where are the people? Like, where are there's clearly more and more people. Like, there's still, actually, we lost 90,000 people recently, which is bullshit, I'm sure.
I think
Darryl, by definition, we had a shortage. You have to understand that. By definition, if we did not have a shortage, the price appreciation would have never happened. It's as simple as that. And now that things are easing off, it's like, okay, there's stuff available for sure. When people leave, when the reason we had a shortage, though, was because we increased the amount of people coming to the country each year by 5 times. Like, no wonder all this stuff is happening.
That's after there was already the frenzy, right? That's after the frenzy cooled down. We started really
that started in 2021. They brought in 1.2 million people, 2021, 2022, 2023. And then halfway through 2024, maybe we'll slow it down a little bit.
No, but we had the crisis before that. We were always short.
From 2008 till 2022, prices went up every single year. I mean, we had little bumps along the way, but like...
No, but in 2020, when? 2017, 20...
Yeah, we had our bump, but then it immediately came back the next year. Like,
but you're selling out condos in a weekend up until like COVID hit, and everybody had to figure out how to sell condos in an hour all of a sudden, right? Like, it was so upside down and backwards forever. It increased. The velocity of it increased in 2021, and it went absolutely bananas. Like, absolutely bananas. But before that, it was really crazy. I mean, you would talk to people who would say 95% of the buyers were foreign investors, and then you'd have other people that said it was like 20%. But the reality is the initial person was never, ever, ever intending on buying that unit. That first person was just a $50,000 loan with a giant lift on it, right? Like with a giant coupon that was assumed, right? And again, it's like, I've been in this business a long time and I know everybody in it. I was invited to every pre-launch for everything. I could have bought so many units, but I couldn't get past the fact that I had to lose money every month and think of it as an investment. I couldn't get past that. But when I would get packages, you'd always see on that thing, appreciation year 1, appreciation year 2, right? And this is what it's worth when you're going to close, if you even close, and I can get you a buyer for $100,000. Like, it was so crazy. Those were not buyers ever, that first layer. Who's got the real data on that? Like, for real? Because nobody. Who do you know, Tom, that could... Or Steve, either of you, do you know anybody that is starting out their life going, you know what, like to have a kid, get married? I think that building will be ready in 7 years, 6 years. I think I'll start with my deposit now so that it's ready when I need that thing.
No, zero.
But this is what I've been saying forever is that the focus should be across most areas wood frame, 3 to maybe 6, but 3 to 4 story livable 2-bed and den 3-bedroom units, or maybe even you have 1-bed, 2-bed, 3-bed units in something that can be built in 2 years. That's where the focus should be. But for some reason, it went to these downtown high rise. Everybody wants to have luxury, and it's not luxury, and it's 500 square foot luxury 1-bed. Like, you know, everybody's got a gas. Sure, you got a gas range and quartz countertops, but other than that, you're living in a shoebox.
Find me a real developer that excites to do that deal. Like, there's no return on that thing for anybody.
Now.
When is it going to get better? When the rents go down further, right? Like when money gets more expensive again, like when is that scheme better? That 6 units is good for the guy who's used to building 1 unit. Okay. It's a step up to get him to the real deals, which is where the bigger guys want to play, because listen, there's an opportunity cost. It takes almost the same amount of time to zone one of these little 6 unit buildings than it does any building.
But the focus shouldn't be like, you're thinking of that because you're probably focused in the city of Toronto itself, where you're going to buy a certain parcel and you're only going to get 6 units there. But where I am, and I'm sure the outside of Toronto is the same thing, in all these other areas, in Mississauga, they should not be building 75 stories. They need to be building, they've got large plots of land in different spots, and they need to be converting those into easy to build, quick to build, wood frame units that are livable. I think that's actually the answer. Like, I've driven through Mississauga and I'm going, why is that one building? Like, yeah, well, first of all, where am I?
Where the hell am I? Where did I end up? Did I take
why is there a 60-story tower with nothing around it? Like, that's what it feels like when you get out that way, right? People might say the same thing around where I am, but it just doesn't feel like it fits.
That's everywhere in the GTA. It's like little clusters of downtowns all over the place. And somehow we actually filled these things up. The problem with that idea, and I'm not saying it's wrong, it's probably right. But all those people that own the land, they think they got a 60 towers story tower site, right? So like, what are they going to sell it for 1.2 million to make a 6-unit building? I don't think so. And this is where the math keeps breaking. Right? Because all these guys in the planning, they don't know how to do this shit. They've never done this shit. Most of them rent their apartment or their house. They never even fucking did a APS or they got a mortgage, for God's sakes. Right? They don't know what it's like to actually do this stuff. So how the fuck are they regulating this thing? Okay? How are they?
What do you think the homeownership rate amongst city planners is? More or less than 50%?
Right now, way less. Listen, one, I know some of them, but B, all the old guard left during COVID for private jobs offering much more money. Okay, so there's a very, very young staff, at least in Toronto right now. And a lot of them, and this is why they're at least willing to talk about changes, because a lot of them are sitting here going, wow, like I wouldn't mind owning a place. We got to fix this thing, right? Like maybe I can make a difference. They realize quickly that they're up against a giant machine that really doesn't want to change. And if they want to keep their job, they better, sit down and shut the fuck up. But there's that air, like they're definitely, everybody recognizes, because listen, whether you're renting, owning, or whatever you are, if you're in a certain age bracket right now, let's say 30 to 50 something, you're sitting there going, how the fuck are my kids going to afford to live here? Like how I'm going to have to save up to buy them a condo or a house now, or they better get used to the idea of renting or moving really fucking far away. Right. And so the parents want their kids to live near them. They got to save up. They got to buy them a condo, because even back in my day, it was hard enough to get a house without any help from anybody. Now, that is impossible. This is impossible. Unless you're a Bitcoin or a crypto guy and you've just made a fortune.
Don't worry, Darryl. By then, mortgages will be 50 years. and the minimum down payment will be 3%. Like because to answer that question, if you go back to my parents, to me, it's like, how does my generation get in? Well, we're taking on more debt than the previous generation. Interest rates were very low, or we're getting gifted money from our parents. Like, that's the actual answer. It is. Yeah. Steve, you're shaking your head, but that's the truth.
Well, the truth is affordability is getting better. Affordability is getting so much better. And I will prove it to you because I just did a video on my channel of this exact thing. I took the exact same property
from 20 years ago. Okay, 2 years ago it's better, but not 20 years ago.
Oh, okay. All right. What are we going to go back in time? Are we going to get a time machine, Tom, and everybody go back in time and then cash in our chips? Then I'm buying Bitcoin if we do, and NVIDIA. The point is, things are getting better. 2 years ago, I had no problem selling that. Like, the example I used was a 2-bed, 1-bath, 650 square foot. It's an entry-level place, right? 2 years ago, in February 24, that unit sold for like $565. And then I broke down the payments at 20% down, at 5% down. Now I found the exact same unit, the exact same building, a few floors down, but same floor plan, everything. And it just sold for $466. Not only that, interest rates are better part of 1.5% less. Yeah. So you need less down payment. When I went to the high ratio payment, like of the minimum down payment, first of all, the minimum down payment before went into the 5% and then 10%. Now you don't need a transfer tax because that's all out because it's below the 500 number here in BC.
Because you don't really own it? Is that why?
You only need the...
Sorry.
You don't need the extra down payment, so that all drops. But the payment itself dropped. This is how much the payment dropped.
Yeah,
$882 per month.
What's that as a percentage? The drop.
It went from like 30 to I would have to pull it up, but I'm gonna say it feels like 20 or 30%. 35% upwards of the payment getting better. Now, the problem is I can't sell them now at this new price where people are like, oh, that's great. But 2 years ago, everybody wanted to buy them still. Even in 2024, we had a great year. But now nobody's there to purchase those units. But it's getting better because those prices are still coming down.
Right. I was going to ask you at the beginning. I wanted to ask you if you guys thought affordability was coming down because, I mean, there's tons of inventory. Clearly, prices are coming down, and interest rates have come down. I mean, that by definition should just easily translate into more affordable. Now, that I don't know if it's affordable, but it seems like some new homeowners are coming back. Tom, is that not right?
If you actually look at what Steve talked about in terms of cost of owning, we're helping tons of first-time home buyers every single week. And people that have been like 10+ year renters are now getting into the market. And what Steve mentioned is true. I thought he was talking about a much longer time horizon, but over the last 2 years, like everybody points to the peak of the market. If you actually look at like the peak of cost of ownership, it was probably buying in mid 2023 to late 2023 at those prices with those interest rates for a 5-year period. Because I know the 2% rate you got at the peak of the market's coming up now anyways, and then it's going to be bad. Like I get that. I get all that. Yeah. So the last 2 years, like significant changes in affordability coming down. However, it's still expensive, but it does allow, there's wiggle room now that people that thought it was not possible are now going, oh, I could do this, but a lot of them are in rentals well below market value, trying to decide, do I up my monthly payment by $1,500 a month to become a homeowner now because I can do it, or do I stay in this safe rental situation and perhaps invest my money elsewhere?
Yeah,
so I just did the numbers on the payments of what I was just talking about. So the original payment if you bought 2 years ago would have been $32.40 a month just for your mortgage if you were the minimum down payment person.
Which, by the way, is crazy for a small condo. That's your cost.
Now it's $23.58. So that's 72. Your costs now are only 72, 73 cents on the dollar from before. So you're talking about coming down, upwards of 27%.
Crazy.
Right? So things are now, if you can, which also is less, the 20% down payment.
Right? Because the guy who sold it just got fucking hammered.
Somebody's going to lose somewhere, right? So,
well, not necessarily. Those buildings
depends on when they bought. Depends on when they bought it.
It depends on lots of things.
I'm just saying it's a crock that, like, at some point here with prices coming down, stuff is getting better. Like if you're able to get 20% down now, that building is cheaper than rent.
Right.
Because now your payment drops to like $1,986 per month, and then you have strata and property tax on top.
But are you factoring in where you invest that money and you're easy to get 4% return? And blah, blah,
yeah,
blah,
because
blah?
everybody that's a renter and doesn't buy real estate knew exactly when to buy into Bitcoin and Nvidia and Google at the exact right time. I forgot about that. They're perfect. They're perfect at timing.
You have to factor that in.
Well,
you do have to factor in something, though, to be honest with you. But, I mean, I don't know what that factor would be. It would depend on so many things. I mean, if you're sitting in a GIC, I think you could get like 2% right now. So,
but people that listen to your show, Darryl, or our show, they know about investing. They understand they have to plan for retirement, and they're interested in economics and real estate and all of that sort of stuff. That's not most people. I don't know if you noticed, but our views haven't been very good lately. Not that many people are listening to this type of stuff compared to how many people are in the country, because they're more worried about other stuff. They're worried about, how bad our hockey team is or whatever's going on. They're worried about going to work or gaming or whatever they're doing today. They're not worried about investing.
Boba and Kyle Tucker. That's all.
Yeah, I'm worried about that, actually.
I'm worried about that for sure.
Daryl, I'm going to try to bring something up on the screen now. We're going to see if this works.
This is his new thing where he puts stuff over people's faces.
Yeah, but
Tom's new thing.
We can all see it, so don't worry. The viewers don't need to see our faces. Daryl, can you see this okay?
Yeah,
so
my camera's in the way. Hold on.
I just wanted to ask you your opinion on this, and basically this is Urban Nation data, and it's showing you on the bottom right the increases since 2017 for developers. Development charges up 171%, construction costs up 92%, just the new condo prices up 63%, and then on the left it shows you a breakdown of a building and what percentage goes to different categories. I'm just going to pull my screen up closer to me so I can see this.
Is any of those profit anywhere? Is there profit?
Well, yeah, developer profit is at the very top. What is that?
At the top. Is that how it works?
It's on the top 4 floors. It's on the top 4 floors.
It's okay. Right. Developer profit, they're saying, is 9 to 12%. Is that something that lines up with what you know from the industry right now?
I mean, that might be where some deals end up, but I mean, if you're looking at a deal and that's what you're trying to get on your pro forma, I don't think anybody's joining you for that endeavor. I mean, well, I don't know. I've never gone for something in that range.
Okay.
And pulled the trigger. But I mean, if we like, this is another thing that everybody listens to what's out there and thinks it's true. And
well, that's why I'm asking you, because then it's saying the other category is the government charges 22 to 27% of the building is government charges. Does that make sense to what you know for what you're trying to do? Is it almost 30%?
It depends on the building. Like if you're building 60 stories and 300 units, it's different than if you're building 6 stories and 16 units, right? But it is a ridiculous amount of the costs, and it doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't get anything. Like what are they doing with all this money that is making it worth being part of this, right? Because you submit, okay, you do all the work with all the applications, you put in a few $100,000 of application fees, and it's no big deal. But then you got to put up the development charges. All the work is done at this point, okay? Now it's just like you need the permit charge and you need the development charges. So everybody did the reviews, everybody looked at everything, everybody made their comments and made their opinions known and did their little dances and all the bullshit, right? And then all of a sudden,
hey folks, if you're looking for a real estate agent in the city of Toronto, let's face it, you gotta call my buddy Tom Storey of the Storey team and Royal LePage Signature in Toronto, Ontario. They're your obvious choice because Tom is not just the co-host of this podcast. No, he is a real life and top producing real estate agent in the city of Toronto. There's nobody out there that knows the condo market better than Tom and his team in downtown, but they do service the entire city of Toronto and any of your residential real estate needs. So if you're looking for an agent, do not hesitate to reach out to Tom, book a call with him using the link down below in the description of this podcast, and let Tom guide you through your real estate journey. And now back to the podcast.
You're here, which I don't even remember what the hell I was talking about. So where
development charges. I think this is the one thing that you can talk about.
Crazy, okay?
Development charges.
How much they are.
So it's as bad as we've all heard. Sorry, Steve.
It's beyond bad.
No. It's terrible. It's terrible. I get it. But there's one change you can do. You can take the same amount of development charge and just put it on completion. So when you get the final occupancy, and I'm not talking about this bullshit stuff you guys do in Toronto with some temporary occupancy that lasts for 17 years.
Interim, I'm not talking about thank you. Yeah.
I'm talking when the city actually puts their final stamp of approval, that's when that is paid. Like when the deal completes, that's when that is paid. That would motivate the city to actually get their money and get this stuff going.
No, those developers would be long gone in Mexico by then, Steve. The money's gone by then.
Listen, that helps with another thing, though, because now you don't pay interest on all that money for the development.
Exactly.
Exactly. For the duration of the deal, right? Until you get out of that loan, right? You got to pay juice on that thing.
100%.
And so that alone. So, they talk about, lowering DC's development charges, which is very helpful. And it is a gigantic part of the money that you end up needing. I mean, adding them later, it doesn't reduce the cost of the project. It definitely defers some costs, and it definitely reduces the amount of interest, but it doesn't make it affordable now. But you know what really helps is, again, eliminate all this gray shit. Eliminate a year of interest for me on a loan over the life of this thing. Don't put me through all these stupid consultants and meetings for a year and a half before I can build. That is better than changing the DCs, believe it or not. That is way more money.
Right? But they're not real life. They don't live in real life. Government workers don't live in real life. Government workers live in my coffee breaks at 10:15, my lunch breaks from 12 to 1. I don't have to worry about any of this stuff. My paycheck's here. It doesn't even matter if I'm good at my job. I'm not getting fired. I'm in a union. Right. That's where they sit. So they don't care. They're going home at 4:30 and it is what it is.
But that's part of it. What's actually, I think, kind of interesting is they actually do care a lot. It's just about a specific thing. And that's why a lot of them, I think, end up in government, because they actually do care about something. Like some of them care about trees and some of them care about planning. They get there and they probably realize, you know what, okay, this is a good paying job. I can't do a goddamn thing I really want to do here. Nothing makes any sense. So I'm part of the system now because I want that pension or whatever other reason motivated them to be part of the city. Or they bail and they go to a private place where they can make some real money. But a lot of them weren't motivated by money, or they wouldn't take some of these jobs. I'm positive. Right. But the problem is the person that's motivation is saving the fucking trees. They need to be not part of the system, because if I'm not even joking. Okay. I was in a meeting 2 days ago with my whole team, and this happens every couple weeks where we have to redesign things and talk about trees for a fucking hour. How are we going to stay away from the tree? How are we going to have enough soil in the backyard to support a tree? And what happens if the roots of the tree penetrate the foundation? And everything ends up about the neighbors with the trees. And it's literally an hour times every consultant by the hour, and each one of them has 2 on the call. So it's 16 people.
$150,000 tree.
Right? Not even I wish it was that cheap, the tree. Okay. But this is the craziness. So you end up, you build a building around the tree, you go to the neighbors and you got to rub their tushies for a couple of years and beg them. And then at the end of the day, it's just going to be you get a letter from a lawyer saying, we want 150 grand plus this, and this, and we want a unit in the building, and you got to do our maintenance in our driveway for the next 6 years. everybody wants to milk one of the teats on this cow, and the cow is a barren desert now, right?
Assuming that you didn't need all these additional approvals and you would do things the right way is one thing, right? So let's say Darryl does everything the right way. He doesn't need to go through all this crap. But is there not developers that would wildly take advantage of this and build shitty product that's not safe? And like, where's that middle ground between making sure it's not a complete piece of crap, and getting things done fast?
Okay, so if you're planning to do something, are you, like, when you think of an idea, when you're excited about something, is it the cheapest, shittiest version possible of that idea? Like, does it even have a budget, right? It's like, this is the idea. This is what I think is great here. This is what I want to do because I think it's the best idea, right? If I'm wrong, fine. That's going to be my problem, right? Because if the guy beside me has a better product for a reasonable price because he figured it out because that was his mindset, where are they going? When that building falls down, okay, and everybody goes, Tom's buildings fall down, maybe don't go in one of his buildings. Like, that should have a ramification. But instead, you get like Terry on, guys are allowed to come out in another name with different partners, and nobody's protected against anything. Let me build what I want to build. Let me do the best thing that I can or the worst thing that I can, and let the market decide what happens with me. Like, isn't that how it should be?
I mean, to a point, right? But then there's like buildings in Miami that collapse and people die. So obviously
everything goes wrong, and then everybody complains that the government didn't do enough in the beginning.
No, but I mean, somebody should inspect it, right? Somebody should be responsible to make sure that if you're building something that's allowed because it's within the rules of the box, right? Which should be very loose. Like, here's the height, width, and depth of this thing. Do what you got to do, right? If I want to have one staircase and have a fire trap and be liable for killing a bunch of people, right? It's in the responsibility and right. If I actually end up being responsible because people die, I can't hide behind my insurance, and I can't hide behind a corporate veil or another partnership down the road. Then maybe I'm going to do things properly. But we're incentivized. Not we. Most people are incentivized by the system to build the shittiest box as quickly as possible and deal with it later because why? You can, right? What happened? You have a balcony fall from downtown Toronto and kill somebody. Are those developers in jail? Like, did the builder go to jail? Nothing happened. Somebody's insurance premium went up and somebody's insurance paid out and somebody's dead, right? This is somebody falls off a roof on your job site because you weren't really managing it properly. I mean, that guy's dead and you have a fine or something, and everybody goes like, do you remember Rike? Who's that guy that blew off the roof? Because nobody gave a fuck to make sure he didn't blow off the roof, right?
I want to I don't even know how we change the subject on this one, but I want to wrap up with two final things. What's your beef with appraisers? What's going on with Darryl and appraisers? Because in my world these days, in a declining market, appraisals are not an issue. They're coming in. It's not been an issue for me since the prices started dropping. It was only when prices were going up we had a few issues on things with residential. What's going on with you and appraisers, and why do you not like them?
Well, hold on a sec. Explain that to me. How are you not having an issue with appraisers that come in?
He doesn't deal with new construction.
When we're buying properties, there's enough comparables at where the prices are at today that it's more clear than when things were just jumping up super fast.
Yeah, today. So what about today? 2 years ago when things started dropping? Did you have appraisal issues?
I'd say we had appraisal issues maybe 5 times in my 13 years of selling real estate on purchases that our clients had. And then you got a second appraisal and it was fine.
And then what about now? You're saying now
I haven't had an issue on a purchase for a residential real estate client.
Problem. You're saying on the way up is a problem?
I'm just saying on the way up, we had a few things come up. On the way down, because it went up really fast and it came down not as fast. There was the initial 6 months of from 2022, but then since then it's been this little kind of slow grind down. It wasn't like an immediate drop. So I'm just saying I've had no issues with appraisals in my business in the last few years. Not one.
very different.
Have you seen one, Tom?
Have you seen one?
I don't. Usually they're auto appraised by the bank. They're not even coming out.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, but Darryl has a different appraising. I'm sure the stuff you're doing is a completely different.
Very different.
Yeah.
Very different. You're talking about like residual analysis and all kinds of shenanigans and time, all kinds of ways that depending on, I guess, who commissions the appraisal, they take a point of view, or I guess depending on the appraiser. So it's so subjective that it makes it very hard to do things sometimes when you have to raise money and you make certain assumptions. And when you're a developer, you look at a piece of land, I guess, differently than a realtor, differently than a mortgage broker, differently than basically everybody else, because you have like the whole thing. You have the whole idea, right? You have the plan. And so you are arguing with people that have, again, never done it before, more than likely. They don't really know the ramifications. What they do know is that they have errors in emissions insurance, okay? And that they've been told to get it to something, or maybe they haven't been told to get it to something, but they've definitely learned over the years to be as safe as possible and to be able to defend whatever you put out there, because rarely are people happy with the appraisal they get, okay? This is just the way it is, especially I think when you're buying land that you think you have an edge on, right? Because it's always nice to buy a land that you think has a lift on it at the beginning and have it recognized. But that, anyways, so you have two different appraisers that look at the same piece of land, and one of them says it's worth 30 million and the other one says it's worth 50 million. And they both have really good reasons, and they've both used the same, some of the same comps, but they didn't look at the comps the same way. One of them has time regression and the other one says time regression is a fool's game. And it's just like, one guy uses a comp like 3 cities over and has some kind, it's like, I've seen it all. I've seen the craziest stuff. And a lot of times it's because the lender says, this is what I needed to say. And I give you a lot of business. Okay. So find a way, buddy. And there's a lot of this. And this is why guys like to use certain appraisers, right? Because for a guy lending the money, it's about risk management and getting into really good deals, right? And the lower your loan to value, the better off everybody thinks you are, and the higher your returns look and the lower your risk profile is. This is one part of the game, right? So it's like there's all the tugging back and forth and all the baloney. But an appraiser, depending on, I guess, his moral compass and the amount of debt he has and how much the client helps contribute to lowering that debt, the values end up in certain places that are really hard to justify if you know what the hell it should be. And see, this is the crux. It's like, I don't know what you are, that you purchase yourself, that you would consider yourself an expert in, but like whatever it is, it like the back of your hand. You don't need somebody to tell you what it's worth. The minute you see it or hear about it, you just know, right? And so a good developer knows whatever they're about to buy before they buy it. They don't need those. You shouldn't need the consultants to tell you what you have, okay? That's bad. That's a bad developer. The good developer knows what he has and finds people that agree with him and get it actually done, right?
Tom,
I was going to
say,
okay.
Tom, stop. Man, I got to cut you off quite often.
Because Daryl's here, we're interrupting each other. It's like him being here just makes us
your show.
I don't know what's going on, but I love it.
Tom, I'm going to say that from our point of view, like, we know what a unit's worth. What that condo in that building at that square footage is worth. Yeah. And you don't even need to look at comparables a lot of the time. You're like, I know this is it. Like, this is what it is. That's fine. And most often you're right. Even if somebody's going to end up listing with somebody else because they want a higher price, like, that's the end sale price. However, here's what we see is often then the person doing their appraisal for our purposes doesn't know the market that way. And they know the market from just looking at listings online. They're not in them. They're not working on deals. They're not negotiating the deals, right? I find, and this is a bias, and I'm going to stereotype the group here. I find a lot of appraisers in the resale marketplace are failed agents. They couldn't make money being real estate agents because they had to get paid on results. So they switched to, I can do 2 or 3 appraisals per day at $400 a pop, and then I can make a living, right? That's the reality of it. So when I see appraisals come in for resale property, they're like, I remember one we had a while back where it did come in low, and it was like a 2-car garage, 2,000 square foot, 1990s townhouse. And the comparables were like a 1,200 square foot, 1970s townhouse with a single carport. Like, it's a different thing, but they just went townhouse in Newton. That's what it is, right? So I don't know if it's better to have auto appraisals or to have appraisers go in, because I'm not seeing the difference between them.
Well, I think the important thing, and just like what I was saying before, is there has to be a consequence. You have to be responsible for what you put out there. These sons of fucking bitches, okay? These sons of bitches on the way up. No, but think about it. How the fuck did last week that house be $100,000 more, or 3 days ago, right before this bidding war? How did the appraiser come in and go, yeah, that makes perfect sense to me. Like, because somebody's willing to pay it must mean the value's there. And like, what the fuck are you guys doing? Those guys should have snuffed it out at the beginning, going, you can pay whatever you want, but there's no fucking way that after this thing sold yesterday, it's worth 75 grand more already, or it's like crazy numbers, right? Like, and then these goddamn mortgage brokers who were completely complicit, and fucking realtors. Everybody was complicit. I know a guy. Here's the guy. You get this appraisal. He's going to give you this. This guy's going to give you this. And next thing you know, you got fucking $1.2 million of debt on a house that should be worth $600,000. But the appraisal came in at like $2 million. Right? So the lender somehow lent somebody this money. Some moron borrowed the money and had to come up with a ton of equity to get that thing done too, right? It's like just... But the appraiser, his duty should be going, guys, no, I don't care what's going on out there. Fundamentals say this house is worth this. And then everybody should have somebody that goes, I've checked their accounting and I've checked their records and I see what they have in the bank. And this is a prudent move for this individual. Right? And I approve the purchase of this thing as their financial advisor, who's also on the fucking hook if things go wrong. Right? People got to be on the hook when things go wrong. This is the problem. Everybody's got insurance. And the insurance allows everybody to just be reckless, fucking crazy people and lie about stuff and embellish stuff. It's bad. It's really bad. And the appraisers, they could have stopped it. How is their whole association like not being sued by everybody for allowing that run up? Think about it. Tom, did you not sell the same condo a week after the same condo for a ridiculous amount more that everybody in the office was going?
Yeah, of course. That was happening during the run-up every single week, right? Because you didn't know what it was worth. You'd list it at a price, you'd market it correctly, you'd stage it, you got it ready to go, and you get 8 offers, and you're like, all right, this top one's really good. Well, one of the things we were doing with the top offer when it got kind of crazy, we're like, hey, are you good on appraisal on this if it doesn't come in? Like, how much cash do they have they can put down? So we were trying to ask those questions, but they all closed, Darryl. They all firmed up and closed.
Of course, because the appraiser said it's worth $8 billion. So why wouldn't you lend against it?
Bank wanted to lend the money.
Talk to all these lenders out there now. How many of their houses that they lent on are just absolute nightmares right now? It's insanity.
On a different level, you know those like online evaluation things that exist on certain sites?
Yeah.
And then sellers are like, well, you know, this site says it's worth this. I'm like, oh, well, I hope a buyer sees that and agrees with that site. Or maybe if that site thinks it's worth that, they should be able to send you an offer, right? They're probably willing to buy it if they're going to just make up a number and put it online. Right. But it's marketing. All those things are marketing. They're they're used to get people to sign up for their product, and then they're secretly a brokerage anyway.
So I've had a lot of discussions with appraisers lately because I'm having things reappraised and doing some refinancing, and it's just really crazy the frame of mind of the appraiser, right? Because they just want to protect their asses. It's like a weird way to do something, right? They want to cover their ass so that there's no liability. So it's like, I can say that this is worth this because if this doesn't happen, or this does happen, or maybe just in case, the value should be this. And it's like, who's looking at it like this? Like, who is looking at it? Even the lender wants to lend the goddamn money, right? Even the lender understands the value. Everybody just needs this guy in the middle to like state an opinion. And so I in these discussions, I've said to these guys, you guys need to know the market better than anybody out there. You need to be like area experts. Okay, people need to have an area they focus on and know it like the back of their hand better than the developers, because a lot of them get their comps from us when we go, hey, how come you didn't use this? Like, this just happened around the corner. Like, why don't you know about that? How do I know about this, right? These guys have to have their ear to the ground. They got to know all the people. They got to know what's going on better than anybody so that they can actually appraise it. But they're not appraisers. They're comparers. They've turned into comparers. I'm going to take it and I'm going to compare it to this. And it may not make any sense, but I'm going to do it because it's in this circle here, right? It's within the distance and it's in the time frame. So I'm going to compare it. And you're not going to be able to say anything because my association says I can do it this way. Have a nice day. Thanks for your money.
About a year and a half ago, I was going to change the mortgage on my cottage from a variable to a fixed. I did not do it, and it's actually paid off very well that I did not do it at that time. But I got my cottage reappraised as I was thinking about going through the process. And obviously, I'm the owner, so they called me to ask how they're going to get in. And the first thing he said, he's like, what did you pay for this when you bought it?
Right.
I'm like, this is what I paid for it. And I did do some upgrades. I spent about this much on upgrades, just so you know that going in. And it came back with exactly what I thought it was going to come back at, but I gave him all the information.
That's the biggest fight that I have. It's like, why do you need to see the APS to do the appraisal? Like, what the fuck does what I paid for it have to do with what it's worth? Are those the same? No. It's not in my world. In my world, okay, I buy stuff. For example, recently I bought something for $4.8 million that was appraised before closing at $10.4 million. I was pissed. That was way too low, okay? Because it's worth way more than that. Most people would be happy with that scenario, right? But the appraisal is wrong. The comps are wrong. The thinking is wrong, right? It's just comparing it to one of my other sites on like the other side of town. It doesn't even make sense that you'd use my own property as a comp for my own property when they're not even near each other, for God's sakes. Like, this is the crazy shit you got to put up with. But it's because there's no accountability. Zero. Like, what happens to him when I call him and I say, how the fuck could you use something all the way over there? Well, that's a comp. And that's what I used. And that's my judgment. I think, how do you fucking argue with that?
I guess for a realtor too, when you're pricing properties, you can give an initial value, but still the market determines it. Like, you can think 100%. It's this, but then you put it on and then the market actually determines what it is.
Which is the argument for bidding up property. Which is, you think it's here and then somebody's willing to pay more. Yeah. Which is the other side of the argument that you're talking about, Darryl, because you're talking about the free market doing its thing. If somebody's willing to pay more, then that's what it's worth. So,
no, it's not what it's worth. It's what you paid. Those are different. That's the whole point of what I'm saying.
That's not true. That's a stupid argument, Darryl. That's crazy. What it's worth.
Hold on, one at a time.
It's clear that people don't think houses are worth the current pricing, right? Because they're not buying them. It doesn't matter what they paid for them. They're not worth that. If you paid 1.2 in 2021 or 2022, it's not worth that anymore. It probably wasn't
now. Correct.
It probably wasn't worth it at the time. It's just what somebody paid for it. Those are different.
They're not.
They are. That's a bullshit rule that makes everything okay.
Something is only worth what somebody is willing to pay for it. The reason I know this is because my sellers think that their property is worth something, and the buyers think it's worth something else. So therefore, the property doesn't sell until you have a sale. That's what it's worth.
The highest price is willing to pay. Because if you have 17 offers, which one is right? Which one is the price? The one that you accepted. But that's not the value of the thing. If an appraiser would come in and look at it properly and go, okay, 2 weeks ago, something sold for 250 less. It's exactly the same. Nothing's fucking happened in that time. Somebody's willing to pay it. Okay, that's what they're willing to pay. That's not the value of this thing. I think this thing's actually worth $800,000. Right? Because you can't replace whatever the fucking reason is. The market's gone down, the blah, 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 blah. Or it could be the inverse, I suppose. It's like you paid 4.3, but it's really worth 10, right? It could go both ways. But at today, based on everything I know at this very moment, this is what it's worth. I'll give you $8 billion for that, Steve. I'm willing to pay $8 billion for that thing.
Sold.
I'm not going to do it, but I'm willing, right? If I pay you $4,
somebody will pay.
The value versus what was paid for it versus what it's worth. I just think in residential, what me and Steve do every day, it's not as big of a gap as when Darryl's finding opportunities, and you just talked about it's going to appraise at more than double you paid. Those exist more in your world than our world. That's all I'll say, right?
I think in the pre-construction market, they lived off of that. They lived off of paying $400,000, knowing it was really worth $6 when this thing, in a year from now or whatever the fuck happened, right? And all those appraisals agreed with that shit, and all of those people agreed with that stuff. I understand what you're saying, and I'm not disagreeing. I'm just saying it's a cop-out because it's not the truth. Just because somebody paid 1.2. Listen, I've in the past paid way over market value, at least according to the seller, but to me, it was way undervalued based on what I knew. Right. So I paid, let's say 1.2 for something. They think it's worth 800,000. It's not. I paid I knew it was worth 800 to them, but to me, it was worth 2.2 million. So do you see? The value is so different than what you pay for it. You could be some lucky guy that takes advantage of a bankrupt guy, right? Buy something for $1.5 million under or 600,000 under. It's still worth what the higher price, right? Let's say a guy's selling his house for $2 million. You get to come in like a vulture and you steal it for 1.2, but it's actually still worth 2. That guy just has to dump it, and he's stuck in a market where nobody's buying it for 2. I get that nobody's willing to pay 2 for it, but if he could wait a little bit, maybe it's still worth 2. So circumstance pays into what people have to take and what people can pay. It doesn't affect the value of the asset, right? It's hard to argue both sides, which I like to do on everything.
Me too. Hey, man, we got to wrap. We've gone way long.
All right, Darryl, final. Really, I don't know if anyone's still listening. Maybe they're enjoying their Sunday now. Yeah, this will be a 20-minute segment to wrap things up. Tell me what shrubs.me is. Why did you make it? I know you use them as a sponsor on your show. Tell the audience what it actually is and why they should go download this app.
So shrubs.me is a customizable sharing hub. Shrub. Basically, you can upload anything to the system, whether it's video, files, anything that you would normally share, images, anything. And you can make basically a website or some form of hub to bring people to so that they can see anything and everything that you're working on. So, for example, if there was such a thing as pre-construction still, and you were sending out brochures and you were sending out price sheets and you were sending out whatever, normally you'd get like a Dropbox folder or a Google Drive folder. And as professional as that looks, developers spend a lot of money on marketing and teams spend a lot of money on marketing. And I just thought I couldn't stand all of these Dropbox and Google Drive folders going out there when they could easily be something that was customizable and brandable. So you can do branded data rooms. You could do extensions on listings. You can. It's got a CRM built into it. It has paywalls in it. It's a real great tool for content creators. It's almost like an operating system, but at the end of the day, it's a place to bring people to share whatever it is you want to share.
Sounds good. That's awesome.
And the way it started was the same way as the Canadian real estate show. I had nothing to do. I couldn't.
A complete mistake.
Maybe in hindsight, certainly costly. I think it's actually going to be maybe the best. Well, we'll see. I mean, it's not like I've never made mistakes before, and I'm very happy to make another one. I don't think this is it. I think this is actually really fucking cool. I got kicked off of Twitter. I don't know. You guys aren't Twitter guys. I got kicked off of Twitter and I got all pissed off and I was like, I got to control my own destiny. I got to, it's like you don't make money on YouTube, but you can make money with a paywall and a few hundred people that really like your shit. Mm-hmm. And if I could just bring them over from somewhere else and give them something better, a better experience, maybe it's a worthwhile endeavor. And then it just kind of grew from there. But it just started literally the same day, I think, as the podcast, out of boredom for something to do during COVID. And it just grew into a monster. It started off as a pre-construction tool. Luckily, I realized that was stupid. and it turned into this thing. But it's basically a combination of Linktree, YouTube, Dropbox, or Google Drive. It's got like a cloud storage part of it. It's pretty cool. You should check it out. Free account, shrubs.me. Check it out.
Well, there you go.
Change the name of it. No, just kidding.
Yeah.
How did I come up with the name of it?
No, when are you going to change the name?
Change the name of it. That seems to be what else you like to do.
That one, hopefully I don't have to change. Although everybody thinks it's a weed dispensary. So it starts some good conversations.
All right, Darryl, that was fun. You used the word monster. That was a monster episode, probably the longest episode we put out in years. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you for being here, Darryl. We always appreciate your time. Entertaining, as always, and very informative. When we get Darryl locked in the middle of us and keep him on track, you know what? Says some pretty interesting things, actually. I like this.
When do we get to do one of those episodes when he stays on track?
If I get a chance to speak, sometimes some good shit comes out.
Thank you, everybody, for watching and listening, and we will see you next week. Bye.
I can imagine being in that head of yours there.